The Great Hall of the Galactic Council had never seen such chaos. Ambassador Keith stood at the center of the circular chamber, her crystal body flashing red with panic. Around her, delegates from 43 different species talked loudly in their native languages. Fear filled the air like smoke. Silence! Keith's voice cut through the noise like a blade. The hall fell quiet. We have received another report. The Vrex swarm has destroyed the Epsilon 7 colony. 3 billion souls lost in less than 6 hours. A collective gasp rose from the assembled aliens. The Taurians, tall and blue-skinned, wrapped their tentacles around themselves in distress. The small Flickin delegates chittered nervously, their feathers standing on end. Even the mighty Corvin warriors, known across the galaxy for their strength, looked worried. Keith activated the holographic display at the center of the hall. A map of the galaxy appeared, showing the outer rim territories. Large red zones marked the areas where the swarm had struck. The red was spreading like a disease. They appeared 6 months ago from beyond our galaxy. Keith continued. At first we thought they were just another species seeking new homes. We were wrong. They are not like us. They do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They simply consume. General Thok of the Corvin Empire stood up. His massive frame cast a shadow over nearby delegates. Our fleets are strong. We have fought many wars. Why can we not stop these creatures? Keith's crystal form dimmed with sadness. Because our weapons do nothing to them. Watch. The hologram changed to show a battle recording. Corvin warships, each the size of a small moon, fired their plasma cannons at dark. Twisted ships that looked more grown than built. The plasma bolts hit the alien vessels and simply disappeared, absorbed into their hulls. They adapt, Keith explained. Every weapon we use against them, they learn to counter within minutes. Our best scientists cannot understand how they do it. A small voice spoke up from the Alltech delegation. What do they want from us? Everything, Keith replied. They strip planets bare. They take all metals, all organic matter, all energy sources. They leave nothing behind but empty rock floating in space. The Taurian ambassador, Velnoth, raised one of his tentacles. How long do we have? At their current speed, they will reach the inner colonies in 4 months. The core worlds, including Earth's neighboring systems, will fall within the year. Keith paused, letting the words sink in. If they are not stopped, all life as we know it will end. The hall erupted in panic again. Some delegates called for immediate evacuation of their worlds. Others demanded impossible solutions. A few simply sat in stunned silence. There must be something we can do, shouted Ambassador Rex of the Mining Guild. What about the old weapons? The ones banned by the Geneva Convention of 2387? We tried them all, General Thok replied grimly. Nuclear weapons, quantum bombs, even biological warfare. The swarm just absorbs the radiation and adapts to the toxins. They become stronger. An elderly Flickin named Pip-Pip spoke in his tiny voice. What about asking for help? Are there any species we have not contacted? We have reached out to every known civilization, Keith said. Most are too far away to help in time. Others are too weak to make a difference. What about the unknown ones? Pip-Pip pressed. What about sending a message to everyone, even those we have never met? The hall fell silent. The idea was radical. For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had been careful about first contact with new species. There were protocols to follow, safety measures to take. But these were not normal times. Keith looked around the chamber. She saw fear in every face, in every eye, in every form of alien expression she could recognize. The Council must vote, she said finally. All in favor of sending an open distress call to the entire galaxy? One by one, hands, tentacles, claws, and other appendages rose into the air. The vote was unanimous. Far from the Council chamber in the Deep Space Monitoring Station of Earth's Solar Defense Network, Lieutenant Sarah Kim was having a quiet shift. She sipped her coffee and watched the screens that showed empty space around the solar system. Earth had been peaceful for 300 years, ever since the isolation protocols were put in place. The protocols were simple: no contact with alien species, no response to their communications, and absolute secrecy about humanity's existence. Most people on Earth did not even know that aliens existed. The government kept it that way after the disaster of first contact centuries ago. Sarah's screen suddenly lit up with incoming signals. She sat up straight, nearly spilling her coffee. The computer systems began recording automatically as a broad-spectrum message, flooded every communication frequency. This is Ambassador. Keith of the Galactic Council to any and all civilizations capable of receiving this transmission, the translated voice said. We face extinction at the hands of an enemy unlike any we have encountered. The wreck swarm consumes all in its path. We have lost 17 systems and billions of lives. Sarah's hands moved quickly across her controls, recording everything. The message continued with detailed information about the alien threat. Technical specifications, battle recordings, and desperate pleas for help filled the data stream. We call upon any species capable of war to aid us. We offer all our knowledge, all our resources, and eternal friendship to those who can help us survive. If you can hear this message and possess the means to fight, please respond. Time is running out. The message repeated several times before cutting off. Sarah sat in shocked silence for a moment, then reached for the red emergency phone that connected directly to the highest levels of Earth's government. This is Monitor Station 7, she said when the line connected. I need to speak to Admiral Chen immediately. We have received an alien distress call of the highest priority. Within minutes, Admiral Sarah Chen was in her command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much war, even though Earth had been at peace for centuries. As the head of Earth's secret defense forces, she was one of the few people who knew the truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. Play it again, she ordered. The alien message filled the command center. Chen listened carefully, her military mind analyzing every detail. Around her, scientists and strategists worked frantically to decode the technical data about the wreck swarm. What do you think, Admiral? Asked Colonel Martinez, her second-in-command. Chen stared at the display showing the galaxy map with spreading red zones. She thought about the hidden human colonies, the secret research stations, and the massive defensive fleet that the rest of the galaxy did not know existed. I think, she said slowly, that the galaxy is about to learn why Earth is called a death world. She turned to face her assembled officers. Begin Operation Reveal. Contact all hidden human facilities. Activate the deep space fleets, and send a message to the President. Tell her the isolation protocols are about to end. As alarms began to sound throughout the facility, Chen looked back at the galaxy map. Somewhere out there, billions of aliens were about to discover that they were not alone in their fight. They were about to learn that the monsters they feared had neighbors who were much, much worse. And for the first time in centuries, that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Dr. Marcus Webb stood before the holographic display in the secure briefing room beneath Earth's capital. The gathered officials represented the most powerful people on the planet, though none of them had ever expected to make decisions about alien contact. President Maria Santos sat at the head of the table, her face grave as she studied the data from the Galactic Council's distress call. Explain it to me again, Doctor, the President said. How exactly do we fight something that adapts to every weapon? Webb was a tall man with kind eyes that hid a sharp military mind. He had spent his career studying alien biology and warfare tactics, preparing for a day he hoped would never come. That day had arrived. The key is understanding how they adapt, Webb began, manipulating the hologram to show detailed scans of Rex bioships. They consume matter and energy, then reorganize it to counter whatever attacked them. It's actually very similar to how Earth's immune system works, but much faster. Admiral Chen leaned forward. And the problem is? The problem is that every species in the galaxy thinks the same way, Webb explained. They see a threat, they build a bigger gun. When that doesn't work, they build an even bigger gun. They're trying to outmuscle a creature that gets stronger every time it's hit. So what do we do differently? Asked General Harrison, the head of Earth's ground forces. Webb smiled grimly. We think like predators instead of prey. The room fell silent. Everyone present knew Earth's history, but speaking about it openly still made people uncomfortable. Humanity had worked hard to become peaceful, to leave behind their violent past. But that past might now be their salvation. Show them the files, Admiral Chen ordered. Webb nodded and changed the display. Suddenly the room was filled with images that made several officials look away. Video clips from human history showed warfare, hunting, and survival tactics that had been carefully hidden from the galaxy for 3 centuries. This is why we've stayed hidden, Webb said quietly. This is what happened during first contact. The display showed grainy recordings from humanity's first encounter with aliens. Centauran explorers had arrived at Earth in peaceful ships, hoping to welcome a new species into galactic civilization. Instead, they had witnessed humans hunting wild animals for sport. watched movies filled with violence, and discovered museums dedicated to thousands of years of warfare. They came expecting to find beings like themselves, Webb continued. Species that evolved on peaceful worlds where cooperation meant survival. Instead, they found us. President Santos remembered the stories from her grandmother, who had been alive during first contact. They called us Deathworlders. They weren't wrong, Admiral Chen added. Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world in their databases, the only planet they know of where intelligent life evolved while being constantly hunted by other intelligent predators. Webb brought up comparison charts showing different worlds. Look at the galactic civilizations. The Taurians evolved on ocean worlds with abundant food and no large predators. The Corians developed on high-gravity worlds where cooperation was necessary for survival. The Flickens came from forest worlds where their biggest threat was falling from trees. And us? The president asked, though she already knew the answer. We evolved on a world where everything was trying to kill us, Webb said simply. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, predators, disease, other humans. We survived by becoming better at killing than anything else on our planet. General Harrison studied the tactical data about the Vrek swarm. So how does this help us fight these things? Webb manipulated the display to show human and alien military doctrines side by side. The aliens fight like they live. They try to overwhelm problems with superior technology and numbers. When that fails, they retreat and try to build something even more powerful. And we fight like hunters, Admiral Chen said, understanding where this was going. Exactly. We study our prey. We find weaknesses. We use deception, misdirection, and patience. When an alien sees something that adapts to their weapons, they think, I need a better weapon. When a human sees the same thing, they think, how do I make it adapt incorrectly? President Santos leaned back in her chair. You're talking about psychological warfare. Among other things, Webb agreed. The Vrek swarm adapts based on what attacks them. But what if we feed them false information? What if we make them adapt to counter weapons we're not actually using? Webb brought up tactical simulations his team had been running since the alien message arrived. Computer models suggest we can create adaptation loops, make them change to counter one type of attack, then hit them with something completely different while they're reconfiguring. It's like training a dog to catch treats thrown to the left, then throwing one to the right, General Harrison said slowly. Exactly. But there's more. Webb's expression grew serious. The real advantage we have is that we understand predation in ways they don't. We know how to hunt in packs, how to cut off escape routes, how to drive prey into traps. Admiral Chen stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the city of New Geneva sparkled in the afternoon sun. Families walked in parks, children played, and people lived in peace. It was a peace that had taken humanity centuries to build after their violent past. The cost, she said quietly. If we reveal ourselves, if we use our talents to save the galaxy, they'll never trust us again. They'll see us as we really are. President Santos nodded. The Centaurans weren't wrong to be afraid of us. We are what they thought we were. But we're also more than that, Webb said firmly. Yes, we're predators. Yes, we're violent. But we're also protective. We form pack bonds not just with our own species, but with anything we consider part of our group. You're saying we'd fight to protect aliens? General Harrison asked. I'm saying we already want to, Webb replied. Every person who heard that distress call had the same reaction. We want to help. It's the same instinct that makes us protect our children, our elderly, our weak. The galaxy may see us as monsters, but we see them as something to protect. The room was quiet for a long moment. Outside, the sun was setting and the first stars were becoming visible. Somewhere among those stars, entire civilizations were dying while their protectors struggled uselessly against an enemy they could not understand. President Santos made her decision. Admiral Chen, prepare the fleets. Dr. Webb, I want detailed tactical plans for fighting the Vrek swarm. General Harrison, begin mobilizing ground forces. She paused and looked around the room. Gentlemen, we're about to end 3 centuries of peace. We're going to reveal to the galaxy exactly what kind of species we are, and we're going to save them whether they want us to or not. Admiral Chen smiled grimly. When do we begin? Immediately, Santos replied. And Admiral? When we make contact with the Galactic Council, make sure they understand one thing. We're not offering to help them fight the Vrek swarm. What are we offering? Chen asked. We're offering to hunt it down and kill it for them. There's a difference. As the officials filed out of the room to begin preparations, Webb remained behind, staring at the tactical displays. For 300 years, humanity had hidden their true nature from the galaxy. They had pretended to be peaceful, civilized, safe. Tomorrow, the pretending would end. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn why Earth was the only world where apex predators had developed space travel. Tomorrow, the Deathworlders would step out of the shadows. Captain Elena Vasquez gripped her command chair as the assault cruiser Predator dropped out of hyperspace. The bridge was dark and red-lit, designed for combat rather than comfort. Around her, the crew worked with deadly efficiency that would have terrified any peaceful species. "Scanner report," she ordered. "Multiple Vrex bioships detected," reported Lieutenant Morrison from his station. "Looks like a feeding operation on the mining platform. Count as 15 large vessels and approximately 40 smaller ones." Vasquez studied the tactical display. The Kepler 442 system had been home to a thriving mining operation run by the peaceful Dalmer species. According to intelligence reports, 3 million Dalmers had lived and worked here just 2 days ago. Now their station was being slowly consumed by ships that looked like diseased organs floating in space. "Any survivors?" she asked. "Negative, Captain. The bioships have stripped most of the station already." "Wait." Morrison paused, checking his readings. "I'm detecting a small group of life signs in the station's core. Maybe a few hundred beings in emergency shelters." Vasquez felt the familiar cold anger that made humans such effective predators. Somewhere in that dying station, families were huddled in the dark waiting to die. She would not let that happen. "Signal the fleet," she commanded. "Attack formation, Reaper. Remember, people, we're not here to win a fair fight. We're here to kill every single one of these things." Behind the Predator, 12 more human ships moved into position. Unlike the sleek, beautiful vessels used by galactic civilizations, human warships were ugly, angular things built for one purpose. Every surface bristled with weapons. Every system was designed to keep fighting even when damaged. "Captain," called Communications Officer Park, "we're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Defense Force Observation Post. Admiral Kethvar wants to coordinate our attack with their remaining ships." "Tell the Admiral thank you, but no," Vasquez replied. "We don't coordinate, we hunt. Tell them to stay back and watch how Deathworlders fight." The Predator accelerated toward the Vrex swarm. The bioships detected the approaching threat and began to cluster together, their organic hulls rippling as they prepared for battle. Previous encounters had taught them that galactic weapons posed little threat, so they moved with confidence. They had never encountered human weapons before. "Fire control," Vasquez ordered. "Target the largest bioship, full spread of hunter-killer missiles. Program them for evasion pattern Delta. Missiles away, Captain. Time to target 40 seconds. The missiles streaked across space, but instead of flying straight at their target, they began an erratic dance. They spiraled, dove, and weaved like living creatures stalking prey. The Vrex ship responded by growing defensive systems. Plasma nets appeared around its hull, designed to intercept incoming projectiles. The missiles struck the nets and exploded harmlessly. The bioship pulsed with satisfaction, having successfully adapted to the new threat. Immediately it began growing similar defenses on all its surfaces. "Phase 1 complete," reported the weapons officer. "The target has adapted to kinetic projectiles." "Excellent," Vasquez smiled coldly. "Fire control switched to laser batteries. Full power." High-energy beams lanced out from the Predator, cutting into the bioship's hull. But the vessel had learned from the missile attack. Its surface began reflecting the laser energy, turning the deadly beams into harmless light. "They've adapted to energy weapons too, Captain," Morrison reported. "Perfect. Now they think they know what we're capable of." Vasquez leaned forward in her chair. "All ships begin Phase 3. Target that same bioship with kinetic penetrators." The human fleet opened fire with weapons the Vrex had already adapted to counter. Solid projectiles and plasma bolts struck the bioship's hull, accomplishing nothing. The alien vessel began moving toward the humans, confident in its invulnerability. "Distance to target?" Vasquez asked. 5 kilometers and closing, Captain. Detonate the surprises." Deep inside the harmless missiles that had exploded against the bioship's defenses, dormant systems activated. The missiles had not been destroyed. They had been designed to seem destroyed while actually burrowing into the enemy hull. Now nestled deep inside the bioship's body, they revealed their true nature. Nuclear fire bloomed inside the Vrex vessel. Not one explosion, but dozens, as each missile revealed itself to be a multi-stage weapon. The bioship tried to adapt, tried to contain the damage, but it was too late. The creature that had thought itself immune to human weapons died in atomic fire. Target destroyed, Morrison reported with satisfaction. The other bioships they're backing away, Captain. Good. They're learning to be afraid. Vasquez studied the tactical display as the remaining Vrex ships spread out, trying to put distance between themselves and the human fleet. Now we show them what real predators can do. All ships hunting formation. We take them one by one. What followed was not a battle in any sense that galactic civilizations would understand. It was a hunt. The human ships moved like a pack of wolves, using their superior speed and maneuverability to isolate individual bioships. They would strike with one type of weapon, let the enemy adapt, then strike with something completely different. Commander Sarah Rodriguez led a boarding party onto one of the smaller bioships. Her Marines moved through the organic corridors like deadly shadows, their weapons designed for close combat in confined spaces. When Vrex defenders tried to stop them, they discovered that humans could fight in conditions that would kill most other species. Radiation levels in this section would cook a Taurian in minutes. Rodriguez reported as her team fought their way toward the bioship's brain center. Good thing we're not Taurians. The Vrex tried to adapt their internal defenses, growing new types of guardians to stop the human borders. But humans had been fighting in hostile environments for thousands of years. They wore armor that could survive in vacuum, carried weapons that worked in any atmosphere, and most importantly, they were utterly ruthless when protecting their pack. Core chamber located, Rodriguez announced. Planting charges now? Sarah, you need to get out of there, Vasquez's voice came over the radio. That ship is starting to collapse. Negative, Captain. If I leave now, this thing might survive and adapt to our boarding tactics. I'm staying to make sure it dies. Rodriguez activated the nuclear charges and sealed the chamber door. The bioship's death throes shook the entire structure. But she held her position until the very end, ensuring the enemy could never learn from this encounter. Commander Rodriguez has given her life for the mission, Vasquez announced to the fleet. Let's make sure it counts. All ships finish them. The remaining Vrex bioships tried to escape, but human ships had been designed by a species that understood pursuit predation. They were faster, more agile, and utterly relentless. One by one, the alien vessels were hunted down and destroyed. When the last bioship died, the mining station's emergency shelters opened. Hundreds of Dalmer survivors emerged, blinking in the light of their rescued home. They stared in wonder at the human ships, not understanding what they had witnessed. Captain, Morrison called from his station. We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Defense Force. Admiral Kethvar wants to speak with you. The main screen flickered to life, showing a tall blue-skinned Taurian in military uniform. The Admiral's tentacles writhed with nervous energy as he stared at the human captain. Captain Vasquez, he began slowly. We monitored your engagement with the Vrex forces. We have never seen anything like it. How did you defeat them so easily? Vasquez studied the alien's face, seeing the mixture of gratitude and fear in his large eyes. This was the moment humanity had dreaded for 3 centuries, the moment when their true nature would be revealed. Admiral, she said quietly, we didn't defeat them. We hunted them. There's a difference. I don't understand the distinction. You will, Vasquez replied. Admiral Chen sends her regards. She'll be in contact soon to discuss strategy, but understand one thing. We're not here to join your war against the Vrex swarm. Then why are you here? The Admiral asked. Vasquez smiled, and for the first time the Admiral saw the predator behind the human face. We're here to end it. The transmission cut off, leaving the Taurian Admiral staring at a blank screen. Around him, his staff worked frantically to analyze the battle data, trying to understand how a small human fleet had accomplished what entire galactic armadas could not. Meanwhile, in the depths of space, the Predator and her sister ships turned toward their next target. They had tasted blood, and they had liked it. The galaxy was about to learn that the monsters they feared had neighbors who were much, much worse. The hunt had begun. The Great Assembly Hall of the Galactic Council had been redesigned for war. Tactical displays covered the walls, showing battle lines and fleet movements across hundreds of star systems. In the center of the room, Admiral Sarah Chen stood before representatives of 43 alien species, the first human to address the galactic government in over 3 centuries. Chen was a small woman by human standards, but her presence filled the enormous chamber. She wore the simple gray uniform of Earth's defense forces, with no decorations except the silver stars that marked her rank. To the assembled aliens, she looked almost fragile compared to the massive Corians or the towering Altarians. That impression lasted until she began to speak. "Honorable delegates," Chen said, her voice carrying clearly through the translation systems. "I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Forces. I am here to offer you alliance in your war against the Vrek swarm." Ambassador Keith's crystal form flickered with nervousness. "Admiral, we are grateful for your assistance at Kepler 442, but we must ask, what do you want in return?" Chen's expression did not change. "Complete operational command of all military forces. No interference with human tactics. No questions about our methods." The hall erupted in angry voices. General Thok of the Corvan Empire stood up, his massive frame casting shadows across the room. "You ask us to surrender control of our own fleets to an unknown species?" "Unknown?" Chen smiled coldly. "General, your species has files on us dating back 300 years. You know exactly what we are. The question is whether you want to live or die with your pride intact." Admiral Kethvar of the Taurians raised a tentacle. "Admiral Chen, we have reviewed the data from your engagement with the Virex forces. Your tactics were effective but extremely brutal. Your commander sacrificed herself and her crew without hesitation. Commander Rodriguez did her job," Chen replied simply. "She ensured that the enemy could not learn from that encounter. That is how you fight an adaptive opponent. You make sure they cannot adapt." A small Flickin delegate named Pip Pip spoke up in his tiny voice. "But Admiral, your methods seem so violent. Surely there must be a way to defeat the swarm without such bloodshed." Chen turned to face the small alien, her expression softening slightly. "Delegate Pip Pip, your species evolved on peaceful worlds where the greatest threat was falling from trees. You developed intelligence through cooperation and mutual aid. That is admirable, and in peaceful times it makes you superior to us in every way." She paused, looking around the chamber at the assembled aliens. "But these are not peaceful times. You face an enemy that wants to consume every living thing in this galaxy. And unfortunately for you, the only species you know that understands how to kill such creatures is us." The Altarian representative, a being of living crystal, chimed like bells. "What makes you so certain you can succeed where we have failed?" "Because you fight like prey," Chen said bluntly. "When threatened, you cluster together for protection. You build bigger weapons and stronger defenses. You retreat to fortified positions and hope the threat goes away. These are the tactics of species that survived by avoiding predators." She activated a holographic display showing human military doctrine. "We fight like predators. We study our prey's weaknesses. We use deception, misdirection, and patience. We strike from unexpected directions at unexpected times. And most importantly, we understand that sometimes the hunter must be willing to die to bring down dangerous prey." General Thok studied the tactical displays with professional interest. "Your species wages war unlike anything we have seen. But why should we trust you with command of our forces?" "Because, General, your people are dying while you debate," Chen replied. "Every hour you delay, the swarm consumes more systems. Every day you spend trying to fight them your way, more innocent beings die screaming in the dark." The holographic display changed to show current battle reports. Red zones spread across the galaxy like a cancer, marking systems that had fallen to the Vrek swarm. As they watched, another system flickered and turned red. "The Havari system just fell," Chen announced. 2 billion souls lost while we talk. How many more will you sacrifice to preserve your command structure?" President Velnoth of the Taurian Republic whispered something to his advisors, then addressed the human admiral. "If we agree to your terms, what guarantee do we have that you will not simply take control of our fleets and turn them against us?" Chen was quiet for a long moment, considering her answer. "You have no guarantee," she said finally. "You must trust us, just as we must trust you not to turn against us once the threat is eliminated. The only assurance I can give you is this: we could have remained hidden and let you all die. Instead, we chose to reveal ourselves to save you." "But why?" asked Ambassador Keith. "Why risk everything to help strangers?" Chen's expression grew distant, as if she were seeing something far away. "Because despite what you think of us, we are not monsters. Yes, we are predators. Yes, we are violent. But we are also pack hunters. And whether you like it or not, We have decided that you are part of our pack now." The chamber fell silent. The concept of pack loyalty was familiar to some species but alien to others. The idea that humans would fight to the death to protect beings they had never met was both comforting and terrifying. Admiral Kethvar stood up slowly. "If we agree to your terms, how do you propose to fight this war?" Chen smiled grimly and activated a new set of tactical displays. "We divide the galaxy into hunting zones. Each human fleet commander takes responsibility for one sector, with attached galactic forces under their direct command. We stop trying to hold territory and start thinking like a hunting pack." "I don't understand," said General Thok. "Wolves don't build fortresses, General. They chase down their prey until it's exhausted, then they kill it. We're going to make the Vrek swarm run until it cannot run anymore. Then we're going to destroy it completely." The display showed proposed fleet movements that made no sense by conventional military doctrine. Instead of defending key systems, the combined forces would withdraw, luring the swarm into overextending itself. Then human commanders would coordinate simultaneous strikes across multiple fronts. "This is madness," muttered one of the Corvin advisors. "You're talking about abandoning dozens of systems to the enemy." "Temporarily," Chen corrected. "And only systems we've already evacuated. We'll give them empty worlds to consume while we prepare the real trap." "And if your plan fails?" asked Ambassador Keith. Chen looked directly at the crystal being, her eyes hard as steel. "Then we'll have failed fighting like predators instead of prey. But we will not fail. My species has survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, plagues, and 10,000 years of warfare with each other. We know how to kill things that seem unkillable." The vote was close, but it passed. One by one, the galactic civilizations agreed to place their fleets under human command. Some voted out of hope, others out of desperation. All of them understood that their old ways of fighting had failed. As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Admiral Chen remained behind, studying the tactical displays. Colonel Martinez approached her quietly. "Think they'll really follow our orders?" he asked. "They'll try," Chen replied, "but they don't understand what we're asking of them. They've never had to make the hard choices that survival requires." "You mean acceptable losses?" Chen nodded grimly. "Among other things. They're about to learn that sometimes you have to sacrifice the few to save the many. They're about to learn that sometimes mercy is cruelty. And cruelty is mercy." She touched a control, and the display zoomed in on a sector where human and galactic fleets were already beginning to work together. Early reports showed confusion and culture shock as alien crews tried to adapt to human military doctrine. "Admiral," Martinez said quietly, "what if they're right to be afraid of us? What if saving them changes us back into something we don't want to be?" Chen was quiet for a long moment, watching the tactical displays update with real-time battle reports. "Colonel, we've been pretending to be peaceful for 300 years. But pretending doesn't change what we are. The galaxy needs killers right now, and we're the best killers anyone has ever seen. And after the war, they'll have to decide if they can live with having monsters for neighbors. But that's a problem for after we make sure there is an after." Far across the galaxy, human officers were taking command of alien fleets, beginning to implement tactics that would have been considered war crimes by galactic standards. They were teaching peaceful species how to lie, how to deceive, and how to kill without mercy. The Deathworlders' war had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the massive battleship Earth's Fury, staring at the tactical display that showed the final target. The Vrek-spawning nexus hung in the void between galaxies like a cancerous growth, a bioconstruct the size of a small moon where the swarm had originated. After 18 months of brutal warfare, the combined human and galactic fleets had traced the enemy back to its source. "Scanner report," Chen ordered. Commander Singh, her new tactical officer, studied his displays with the efficiency that marked all human military personnel. "The Nexus is heavily defended, Admiral. Approximately 2,000 bioships of various sizes, plus the structure itself appears to be weaponized." "And Admiral, what is it, Commander?" "The biosignature readings are off the charts. This thing isn't just producing Rex units. It's thinking. The whole structure appears to be one massive brain." Chen nodded grimly. Intelligence reports had suggested as much. The Nexus was not just a factory for creating Rex bioships. It was the central intelligence that controlled the entire swarm. If they could destroy it, the scattered Vrex forces throughout the galaxy would die with it. Behind the Earth's Fury, The largest fleet ever assembled by galactic civilization, spread out in attack formation. Human battleships worked alongside Taurian cruisers, Corvan dreadnoughts, and ships from dozens of other species. The past year and a half had forged them into an effective fighting force, but at a terrible cost. Signal from Admiral Kethvar, reported Communications Officer Park. The main screen showed the Taurian commander on his flagship. The once proud alien looked exhausted, his tentacles drooping with fatigue. The war had changed all of them. Admiral Chen, Kethvar said wearily, my fleet is ready for the final assault. But I must ask again, is there no other way? The casualties for this attack will be enormous. Chen understood the alien's reluctance. The tactical projections were brutal. They would lose at least 40% of their forces in the assault, possibly more. By galactic standards, such losses were unacceptable. By human standards, they were the price of victory. Admiral, Chen replied gently, we've been over this. The Nexus has adapted to every long-range weapon we possess. The only way to deliver the virus is to get close enough to inject it directly into the central brain. That means a direct assault. The virus was humanity's greatest contribution to the war effort, and their most horrific. Dr. Webb and his team had created a synthetic organism that attacked the specific type of consciousness used by the Vrex swarm. It was a weapon that could only be deployed by someone willing to die in the process. I know, Admiral. It's just... Kethvar's voice trailed off. You're thinking like your species evolved to think, Chen said kindly. That's not a flaw. It's what makes you better than us in every way that matters. But right now we need predators. The communication ended and Chen turned back to her tactical displays. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency, preparing for their final battle. Many of them would not survive the next few hours, and they all knew it. Admiral, called Lieutenant Morrison from his scanner station. The galactic fleet's report ready. All ships are in position. Chen looked around the bridge one last time, seeing the faces of men and women who had volunteered to die for beings they had never met. This was what made humans truly dangerous. Not their skill at violence, but their willingness to sacrifice themselves for others. All fleets, she announced into her communicator. This is Admiral Chen. In 18 months we have fought across 100 star systems. We have seen worlds burn and species die. We have asked aliens to become killers, and killers to become protectors. Today we end it. She paused, looking out at the stars where billions of beings waited to learn if they would live or die. The Vrex swarm believes it is the ultimate predator. Today we show it that there are worse things in the universe than monsters. Today we show it what Deathworlders can do when someone threatens their pack. All ships attack formation. Begin the assault. The combined fleet surged forward like a tidal wave of metal and energy. The Nexus responded immediately, its defenders moving to intercept the attackers. What followed was not a battle but a slaughter, on both sides. Vrex bioships tore into the galactic vessels with weapons that had adapted to counter every defensive system. But the attackers pressed forward, following human doctrine that emphasized mission completion over survival. Ships that would have retreated under normal circumstances instead rammed themselves into enemy vessels, sacrificing themselves to create openings for others. Chen watched from her command chair as fleet after fleet died around her, their sacrifice measured in kilometers gained toward the Nexus. The Taurian Second Fleet vanished under concentrated fire, but not before their final torpedo salvo opened a gap in the enemy defenses. The Corvan Heavy Division followed, their massive dreadnoughts absorbing incredible damage while their escorts slipped through. Admiral, Singh reported, we've lost contact with 60% of our forces, but the path to the Nexus is clear. Chen nodded and stood up. Commander, you have the bridge. Take us in. Admiral, where are you going? To deliver the virus personally, Chen replied, heading for the door. The injection system requires someone to pilot the delivery craft manually, and this is not a job I can ask someone else to do. Singh stood up quickly. Admiral, I volunteer for the mission. Denied. I need you to coordinate the withdrawal of surviving ships. Then let me send a volunteer crew. Admiral, you're too important to... Chen turned back to face him, her expression sad but determined. Commander, this is not a volunteer mission. This is what command means. Sometimes the leader has to be willing to do what she asks others to do. 20 minutes later, Chen strapped herself into the cockpit of a small stealth bomber, loaded with canisters of the consciousness-killing virus. The ship was fast and agile, designed to slip past enemy defenses and penetrate deep into hostile territory. It was also a one-way trip. The Earth's Fury and the surviving fleet ships provided cover as Chen's bomber raced toward the Nexus. The massive bioconstruct tried to stop her, growing new defensive systems and launching clouds of interceptor organisms. But human stealth technology had been designed by a species that understood predation, and the small ship slipped through like a shadow. Chen felt the bioconstruct's attention focus on her as she approached its surface. The Nexus was trying to adapt to her ship, trying to understand what new threat this represented. It was too late. She crashed through the outer membrane and found herself flying through corridors of living flesh toward the central brain chamber. The walls pulsed around her, and she could feel the alien intelligence pressing against her mind, trying to understand her purpose. "This is Admiral Chen to all surviving ships," she transmitted as she neared her target. "I am beginning virus injection. Withdraw to minimum safe distance and prepare for the death of the swarm." The central chamber was enormous, filled with pulsing neural tissue that controlled the entire Vrex species. Chen aimed her ship at the largest concentration of brain matter and activated the virus release system. The canisters burst open, releasing their deadly cargo into the Nexus's nervous system. The effect was immediate and terrible. The alien intelligence that had consumed dozens of star systems began to die, its consciousness unraveling as the virus spread through its neural networks. Chen felt the Nexus's death throes shake her ship apart, but she held her course until the very end. The last thing she saw before the explosion took her was the light of freedom returning to 1 billion stars. Across the galaxy, every Vrex bioship suddenly stopped moving. The creatures that had seemed unstoppable simply died as their controlling intelligence ceased to exist. On 1,000 worlds, the survivors of galactic civilization emerged from their shelters to find the nightmare finally over. But victory came with a price that would haunt the galaxy forever. In saving them all, humanity had revealed exactly what kind of species they were. The peaceful races that had been saved by Deathworld predators now had to decide if they could live alongside them. 6 months after the war's end, Captain James Harrison stood in the same council chamber where Admiral Chen had first addressed the galactic government. He wore the same simple gray uniform, carried the same quiet authority, and spoke with the same direct honesty that had marked all human interactions with the galaxy. "The Terran Defense Forces accept the position of Galactic Defense Coordinator," he told the assembled delegates. "We will establish permanent bases throughout galactic space to watch for future threats. And if we refuse this arrangement?" asked General Thok, though his voice lacked conviction. Harrison looked at the massive Corvin with sad understanding. "General, you are free to refuse, but you know as well as I do that there are other threats out there, other predators, other swarms, and you know that your people are not equipped to fight them. So we trade one threat for another," muttered a Flickin delegate. "No," Harrison replied firmly. "You trade an enemy for a guardian. We have proven that we will die to protect you. The question is whether you can live with guardians who are capable of such violence." Ambassador Keith flickered with uncertainty. "What assurance do we have that you will not turn against us?" Harrison was quiet for a moment, then activated a holographic display showing Earth,